This is the Blackout Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Blackout Podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people that do amazing things. And finally, I finally got Taylor Olson, and thanks for coming in today.
Hey, of course, man.
So I'm just going to start off with the most recent thing, Bone Cage.
Yeah.
First off, that's like an award-winning book. How did you pull that off?
Well, I did the stage play in 2017. So, Masc Theatre, local theater company, put it up around October 2017. I did the stage production, then I talked to Catherine afterwards, and from having seen the stage production, she let me do it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was kind of ballsy of her to do it.
So, are you playing the same role in the film as you did in
Yeah.
the... Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. And I've not read the book or seen anything about film. Do you want to give, what's the book about? And what is Bone Cage anyway? Is it a thing?
It's not a thing. It's more like a metaphor.
Okay.
Like sort of like your soul being trapped in like your ribs, like physically, like your body being a bone cage sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's what this young guy works in a tree processor, and he clear cuts for pulp all day, and then he goes into the destruction afterwards and finds injured animals and tries to rescue them.
Oh.
And it's sort of about someone who's stuck in a situation where they don't have the means to just get up and leave. They don't have the money, the education, or even the social status to get up and leave, and they want to do something different with their life. But working and tearing apart the environment every day starts to tear them apart, and how it affects their relationships, and that sort of suit of armor that you put on, that sort of performative masculinity that slowly can end up tearing you and the people around you apart.
Wow. Okay. You know what? It kind of has a certain trend with the roles you play. How do you pick the roles you play?
I'd like to say I get to just pick them. But, you mean when I'm writing or
No.
or just in general?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I just kind of if it's paid, I'll just do it, and then if it's not and it's like interesting, then I'll do it. I think the things more than the roles I think I play, the things I seek out are things that if I'm looking at it and I go, oh, like there's an aspect of this I'm unsure of, like I don't know if I can do that, then I'll be really interested in it.
Because
something that's challenging.
Yeah, because so I'm gonna pick up one role. It's kind of a throwaway role, but so it's from Blackout. And you were you were there for I think like 2 minutes on the screen or stuff, but like it's a super vital role. How did you audition for that role? Or?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
yeah.
you did.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought it was like, oh, I know Taylor less. So, what was your approach to that specific audition?
Oh, I think Corey just messaged me on Facebook or something and said, "Hey, come read for this." I think always for auditions, like the way I look at approaching it is just to go in and play. Like when I first started acting, I'd be really nervous. And then I'd, go in and try to book the role. That was like the objective. But soon I realized pretty early on that if I had the mentality I'm just gonna go and practice. I'm just gonna rehearse. I'm just gonna go into the room and just play and just see what happens. It takes the pressure off, and then you actually have more room to. So I think I just went in there and just played around. Had fun.
Yeah, it was a fun role. So I'm gonna now rewind. Yeah. How did it start for you exactly? At what point in your life do you know what I want to be in the movies?
Yeah. So I was an athlete for a long time. That was my focus. And
what sport?
A few. Hockey mainly. Like swimming, track and field, things like that. And then I thought, oh well, maybe I'll play university sports or maybe try to go semi-pro and then just get a degree, get out, working as I thought I might do kinesiology or something like that and stay in sports. But then I did a play when I was in grade 11 or 12. And I did that, and it just kind of hooked me. And I was like, "I'm screwed." I threw it away. I was like,
What's that? Do you remember the play?
Yeah, I did Well, there's one I did very briefly before this, but the first one that really kind of grabbed me, that made me go, oh, I want to do this for real. It's called a play called David and Lisa. It was about this these young people who live in like at that time it was set in the 50s, so it would have been like a mental ward, and he is afraid that if someone touches him, he'll die. And she has other similar fears.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a love story in this place that's really surprising.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really
And
interesting.
then,
Yeah.
and you played David.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
once you realized you want to do it, what did you do to make sure it happened?
Well, I think there was a sort of a fair at the school, and I think they do this at most high schools. I guess is where you show your skills, and then they might give you a scholarship. So I went and did that. I got a small scholarship, and then I applied to. I just applied to one university. It was Dalhousie, because I thought, I was on the coast in BC, and I was like, I want to be on the coast. My parents had moved out here just before I did, and so I thought it was an easy transition. And then came to school here and did the acting program here, and that was sort of. But I wasn't planning. I was like, oh, it'd be great to act in things. Like I thought it'd be nice to like do some acting. But I thought I was gonna do school, and then get my teaching degree and be a drama teacher. That was kind of my plan, because I didn't think I could. I was like, there's no way I can be an actor.
Wow.
There's no way you can
Imagine
make money.
that. Okay, so and then how long were you in Dal for?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 4-year program. 3 years inside like the acting program. Yeah.
But then, so with the acting, I think it's mostly kind of stage stuff, right? Do they have like a film?
They have about a week of film training.
Yeah. So how was that transformation for you? Because I remember the very first time I saw stage people try to make film. It's not good.
Yeah, it's hard. I think sometimes it depends on like your approach. I think.
Yeah.
Like I don't really think of acting on stage and acting on camera as a different thing. To me, they just feel like the same thing, just using different tools. Like the way I think about it is like if you're looking at the lens and the camera's here, and I'm talking to you. Like on film, my relationship, all I have to do is communicate to you. That's it. But in theater, I have to communicate in a way that fills the space. So like projecting like the greatest truth to that space.
But do you think that's something they should teach? Because I don't really see, I think if you can act, right, whether on stage or in front of a camera, you should kind of, it's just one little piece, and if you get that piece, you can switch back and forth. Because, for instance, talking about your fringe play, I'll get to that first. But, so let's go with Dal, and then you finish the 4 year, and then what happened?
Well, actually, I kind of was coming out of school and thought, oh, maybe I won't act because it seems like it's going to be hard. I just had a few experiences with a few professional people where I got the hint that they were like, maybe you shouldn't do this sort of feeling. Like, so I had a desire to do it, but I was sort of afraid of. And then John Dunsworth had this rock opera that he was a part of, that he was like co-directing sort of thing, or like helping produce. And he had taught the film acting at Dal and said, hey, you should come do this. And then he actually hooked me up with a couple like non-union. I don't know, like there's no reason for him to be helpful to me, but he was just like the nicest guy. I think everyone in this industry has a John Dunsworth helped you story. I don't know how he managed to affect so many people, but he hooked me up with an audition for Kaylee McLennan's feature called Noon Gun, and it was like the first like that and another small feature were like the first features I did coming out of school, and that kind of was like, oh well, I'm starting to work and I'm not getting paid, but I'm like working as an actor, so I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah. So that kind of helped me.
And then when did you decide, okay, I'm gonna start writing my stuff?
In the first year, coming out of school, my friends were auditioning more than me.
Why?
And my friends, well, because I was bigger, I was heavier, and my friends were thinner, like, more like objectively attractive. They were auditioning a lot more than me. And I was lucky because I was booking roles. Like I was, I worked on a couple TV shows during that year and like another feature later on and things. But even though I was working, I was sort of like, well, I would like to create more opportunity because I'm not going to be seen for certain things. So what do I want to do? So then I started writing. I wrote a couple short films, handed them to some friends. They directed them. And then I was already at that point starting to like try to direct my own stuff, but like very like low key because I was wanting to screw it up and not have too many people see it. I directed a short film like right out of school called Behind You. And then started directing my own stuff after that. Okay. Like, and in the middle of that, I wrote a short film that Kumbi directed that did really well, and she killed it directing it. Hustle and Heart. Yeah. So it was just to create work for myself. Yeah, just like do the things I want to do that aren't available.
Yeah. So when you write those roles, did you write with you in mind?
Oh yeah.
Do you find when you're writing a story, does it help kind of knowing who you want to play that role when you're writing the role?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely know like if I'm writing for myself or someone else. Sometimes it's I don't see anyone, but when you are writing for someone, I don't know if you experience the same thing. It's a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of goes. Whereas you hear their voice.
Exactly. And don't you find that when you hand it to the person, they just bring that extra to the role?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, and then Cut. That's one of my favorite film of yours. I really love it. I think I was waiting for this body. And then it's great. At what point, like, did you know that ending before you wrote it, or did it change?
Okay, so this one started with I was really bored. I hadn't been doing anything for a while. I was sort of depressed because hadn't done anything for 3 months. Yeah. And I said to Kumbi, like, I want to do something. And then Kumbi and her friend Rosie Hatton and myself came up with a story. Where it's kind of like it was like, how can you do something in one shot where it's like where it reveals multiple things. And then we worked on the story together. And I think I was like, here's one piece of it, and they came up with a whole bunch of the story, sent it to me, and then I sat down and wrote it. And at the end of it, at the end of the first draft, I didn't have that it was just a film thing, and then it was like, oh, what can we add one more because there's already 2 twists, and then it was like, oh well, this isn't. It was maybe almost like a cop out twist, but in a way, it's kind of a cop out. But yeah,
I really love that one. Did you have the title when? Oh, actually, did you have the title before you wrote it, or
no? So, I think I had a really dumb title, like one. I don't know. And then I always ask Kumbi for my titles, and she gives me good titles. I usually write something and then don't know how to title it, and then say like, Kumbi, what do you think is the title? Like Hustle and Heart was something like something stupid like The Playbook or something like that. Like The Playbook. And then Kumbi's like, what about this? Hustle and Heart. And I was like, that's really good. Yeah.
Okay, so we've mentioned Kumbi like, I don't know, 10 times now.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
I think it was like a loop group for a feature called Across the Line, something like that.
What was a loop group?
A loop group is where there's images on screen from a film where they didn't get all the audio, and so actors come in, and sometimes they're just like, it's people in the background lifting things, you just go, or like sometimes you're like, hey, like you're like saying random things in the background. It's mostly just filling. So it's like background talk. It's like if you're in a coffee shop, it's like you pretend to be 2 people having a conversation.
Gotcha. Okay, and how did that meet turn to partnership and working together?
I think we met then, and then we just started talking because we were both really passionate, and like there's not many people who are young who are really like pushing to just make a career immediately. And then we were talking, we just immediately got along, and then I think it just kind of happened from there. It was just easy, you know what I mean? Like it was just I think we just met one day, and like I'd been out of the city for like 6 months. We met, we hung out, and just like we just clicked, and it was just from there to like we started our relationship and working like at the same. It was just all sort of fluid.
What was the first thing you worked on together?
Hustle and Heart.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we did oh no, wait, we didn't. We did I think we did a couple short little things before then that I don't think really like went out into the world, but yeah, they like never got finished. But then Hustle Hard. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so who makes the final decisions?
On things? Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't think there is a final. Like I think it's kind of like we're either meeting on the thing,
Yeah.
and it's like we're meeting and it's working because we're like together and we're like there on it,
Yeah.
or like we end up not doing it together.
Yeah.
I think that's how it ends up working. Because if you're not like 100%, then you're gonna start making compromises and all the little things that like won't. So yeah, we're either just like there. Yeah.
So you did Bone Cage and the play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at what point did you think, oh man, this could have been a film?
I think it was like the second day of rehearsal.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a beautiful play. I mean, Catherine's an incredible writer. There's just something in the immediacy of the writing and the poetry of it that I thought, well, you know, if you could actually take that and translate it visually as well, that it could work really well. And it was just it's such a natural piece of theater that, and visually too, like, you know, thinking about, okay, well, here we don't get to see the trees being cut down. We don't get to see like this bridge. We don't get to see the world in a really like visceral way where you can touch and feel it almost. And I thought that would be really effective. And my family worked in the logging industry for years. Like my grandfather and like his dad and my dad worked in the logging industry too. So it was something that I kind of felt like I knew the world a little bit and the people. Yeah. So
then you reach out to her and you say, I want to make this film. You knew your idea was to go through the Talent Watch program. How was that process?
I think actually, oddly enough, like I didn't think of the Talent to Watch at first.
Oh, okay.
I think I was looking at, maybe you could do a Canada Council thing, and I was like, there's no way you can do it on this little money. And then eventually, went towards the Talent to Watch and had one producer on who in the end couldn't do it, and then Melanie came on. But really the process.
Wait, you had a producer before Melanie
Wood, yeah, who was fantastic and just like, yeah, really the best. But I actually, the first person I talked to was Kevin Fraser, who shot it. We just done a short film by Adam DeViller called Bad Morning, and when we were on that, we sort of connected. We're like, oh, we got to make something together. And then as soon as I wanted to make this, I went to him before I talked to Catherine. I was like, I want to do this, but I have to go talk to Catherine Banks, and make sure that she'll let us make the movie. But if she lets us do it, let's do it. So, yeah.
And okay, so you had Kevin and Melanie on, and I guess what's the process of Talent to Watch exactly?
Well, you have to apply through the industry partner. So there's a few in Halifax. There's AFCOOP, WIFT, NASCAT, NSCC. I think that's it, right? And you apply through the industry partner with your video pitch and your visual application and your script. And then if they select you, then you apply to Telefilm after that. And then they go through a whole other jury process. So it takes, I think we applied I think it was February the first time, and we found out in June, like officially. Yeah.
That's a long ass wait, though.
Yeah.
But did you do anything kind of preparing yourself for that time?
Filmmaking wise, or yeah, actually, well, it was funny because I kind of knew that we had to go with the project. Like, one, I was gonna be too old soon to play the part. Like,
it had to be a certain age.
Yeah, just because it just made more sense with a certain age.
Okay.
And also, you know, when you get that feeling of like, there's not a lifespan on the project itself, but there's sort of like a lifespan on me doing it now. Like the energy that I'm creating, the place that I'm in, like in the world right now means that like this is the best me for this. I kind of felt that with this, where I thought, oh, if I waited even a year more. Like I just could tell that it was like I was going to be too far away. That it was going to be better for someone else, and I was like, I want to do this. So, in the meantime, I talked to Corey Bowles, and he was like, first feature, like, don't screw it up because they won't let you make another one. And he was right. Like he was like, it was like really good advice, and like he's been a really kind to like mentor, and just like a really generous person who gives tons of great advice. And so. In the meantime, I had another short film that I wanted to make, so I used that to sort of test out pieces of the style beforehand and the way I wanted to make and shoot Bone Cage. So that happened to work out well. That I had an idea that I wanted to shoot in the meantime, and I shot that before we shot the feature.
So I remember that was at a thing at Half Cooper, and we saw a clip, and it's like a lot of handheld.
Yeah.
At least for that scene I saw.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of rehearsals, like, or practice for taking these shots?
Yeah. So it's most of the film. We set up Kevin Fraser, DOP, and I sort of set up a set of rules that we had, and rules in different circumstances for the film. I really like rules so that you can, like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then once you have a set of rules, you're like, wow, this is blue sky. We can do everything within this box and it'll fit into the world of the film. And one of the things that I just felt was important for the piece was an immediacy, which meant I wanted every cut to be motivated and therefore to be present with someone for as long as we could. Which meant that the film ended up being a lot of really long shots. Like, there's lots of shots in the film that are a scene's 4.5 minutes long. It's one shot. There's other scenes where it's
so your actors are really good.
They are really good. Yeah. Like the actors that I was lucky to work with are fantastic. Yeah. And so we rehearsed. We had 2 full days and 2 half days of rehearsal before we shot. And 2 of those days had Kevin with the camera all in the house. Everything that's outside the house we didn't get to shoot before or rehearse beforehand, but everything that took place in the house, we rehearsed it and got it ready. And
what was the process of this rehearsal?
At the top of coming in with the cast, I just wanted to like sort of set a tone of safety and the ability to experiment and sort of fail. So sort of try to set that tone of like starting a little family so that we could be a family by the time we went to shoot. We were really close. We would just talk through the scenes, get up on our feet, run them a few times, and I wouldn't give them blocking yet so that they weren't getting stuck. They could just experiment. And then I'd go, okay, cool. Now here's how we're actually going to shoot the scene, and here's how we're going to do it. And then we'd run that until we felt like we had it really close right before the magic starts to happen, and then we'd go, all right, that's it. Save it for when we go to shoot, and then we'd pick up from there on the day. Yeah. And I timed, like, because we were worried with the oneers, one of the things that in pre-production Kevin said was like, hey, we can end up with like a 2.5-hour movie if we're not careful here. We're doing all these big oneers. And so in pre-production I wrote down how long. I would start a stopwatch, and I would read the script in a way that I go, okay, this is how it sounded to me in my head. Yeah. This is like the rhythm that it felt like, and then I'd write down how long it would be. And then we had that document on set so we could go, okay, well, it should be between here and here so that we could kind of make sure the rhythm. And because we knew we were in these long oneers we weren't going to cut, we had to build the tempo and the rhythm into the scene already, kind of like a play.
Yeah.
So we used that, and on the rehearsal days we'd have to sort of go like, oh, it's too much. I don't know how, but we got to cut 10 seconds off the scene.
Yeah.
So then everyone would know that, and then we'd run it again and see, oh yeah, were we closer? And yeah.
But like when the scene is actually being shot, no one is watching the time though.
Yeah, someone is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've got someone there. Like, it was continually changing. Sometimes it was Melanie Wood, our producer. Sometimes it was Luke Freeman, who was our first AD for a while. Sometimes it was Kumbi, who was doing many, many things for us in the film. Timing, writing it down, and at the end of the take, I go, "How long was that?" Like, if I really liked it, I'd be like, "How long was that?" And it's like minute and 45 seconds, and I'd be like, "Oh, shoot, okay, well, it's supposed to be a minute and 35 seconds, okay." I don't know how we're going to do this without rushing because he needs to be completely natural, but we have to take 10 seconds off.
And
you know what I mean? And
and the thing is that 10 seconds seems small, but it adds up.
Yeah. And I think too, like there's, if the actors that we had, like a couple of them hadn't been on screen before, but they're all really strong. And I think with the bit of rehearsal we had and the trust we had in each other, we just, when you said that, we got to take 10 seconds off. I think the best thing to do in that case for us was just to know that, not talk about how we're going to do it. We already know the scene well enough, jump back in, and something instinctually will take over. It just means like maybe there's a slight more urgency, maybe like, you know what I mean? Like something like that would, and then it would always kind of just, the next take would be like, oh, cool, we're around that, yeah.
And then I remember, so you showed 2 scenes that night. The one was like you going to their house, and the second one was a fight, right?
Yeah.
Was that lit? Like, how was that lit? Was it just the lights from the car?
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and the fire though too. So, that was a big thing. Like when Kevin and I were talking about shooting the film, I was like, I want to shoot 360, like always. I want to be able to shoot 360 almost every scene if we want to. I don't want to be in a place where
why is it so difficult? How did your gaffer think of that idea?
I don't know. It was like Keith Mitchell was like on the film the whole time, and I don't know. He was really just chill, but he's always chill.
He's always
Keith,
chill.
But that like for that we most things we had practicals like in like lamps. And then we'd light from outside if we needed to. But a lot of time we try to go really natural and just use practicals indoors. And there we just use headlights. But Kevin's really smart. Like he just knows, okay, how much light and what. Like he's like, look at the color on that light on that truck, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, and the color of light on that truck, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's not going to work because they're different color lights. He's like, yeah, so we need a new truck. Like things like that. Or like, okay, we'll bring this truck in, and that truck will go behind because it's okay. Like he just immediately knows all these things because he's got so much experience that it was great to be able to rely on him. So like that scene was one where that whole fight is just one shot, and it starts shooting through the back of the truck as they're coming in, and that's actually Keith Mitchell who's holding the camera. And he's harnessed into
okay.
He's harnessed. The first time I think we pitched it to Mel, she was like, how are you going to do this?
Okay.
Because we did it a couple times in the film where like Kevin in a few scenes was hitched into the back of the truck shooting through the back window. So you could shoot wherever I wanted in one shot sort of thing.
Who was pulling your focus? Like
Darcy Fraser, and he's
amazing.
amazing.
Would they be in the car too or in a different car?
Sometimes in the car. Like in this scenario, Darcy would have been, I think, on by the monitors actually, but we had Keith with the camera and Kevin's running beside the truck, and and then as we stop the truck, it's shooting through the back window of the truck, and it kind of like comes to a stop, and Keith hands, and as I'm getting out of the truck, he hands it to Kevin's shoulders, and he grabs it, and then Kevin runs with us, catches the fight, and then we run back to the truck, and we did a few things like that where I think the other scene was she comes through the window of the house. Same thing where actually it's funny because both those scenes have the handoffs. I didn't realize that until now, but that scene Keith's got the camera again, and he's walking up following her, and like as she's coming through the window, he passes the camera, and Kevin's like hiding here, and he grabs the camera and comes in, right? So it was a lot of fun to make the movie that way, but it was in a way. I felt necessary because the rules we had established of just being immediately with them as much as we can. And if we had to do a cut, hopefully we've done enough at that point that when we go to the cut, almost the audience doesn't see it. They just don't think of it, ideally.
Yeah, because it's...
Hopefully.
Right there.
Yeah.
And how many people did you work with on that film?
I might be wrong, but I think we had 12 crew total. It was small in a good way. I think that like if we had more money, it would have been nice to have like another one more person on art department because we had a lot of art. Yeah. And but other than that, small it was nice. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And how many days?
16.
Any pickups?
Yeah, this is why I'm kind of saying 16 because it was kind of like 16, and then Kevin and I kind of went out and just did some stuff.
Oh, just the two of you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing though. like, so you had 16 days, forget about the pickups and the crew you had. How much planning went to before these 16 days? Like, once you knew in June.
Right. So we found out in June, and I was kind of busy doing a bunch of stuff. And then, honestly, the script was not even close at that point. So I spent the next 8 months really working the script and adapting. First of all, such great writing. But adapting is, I found a really interesting and difficult process. Trying to like take, you've got your voice and your point of view like as a director, but also trying to have that point of view as a writer. So it was that, and then Kevin was great. We spent a couple weeks just sitting down and talking through all the rules and how we wanted to shoot it, and making like plan A and then making plan B if something went wrong. So we really were very meticulous in sort of like planning the, I don't want to use the word shot listing, but like how we wanted to see the film. And then from there, like the casting had been done before we got the money. It was a very, being an actor, you know all the actors, which is great. And then from there, sort of crewing up was, just seeing who in the Keys wanted to work with each other. And then a couple weeks of rehearsal and scheduling with Luke Freeman, our first AD, which was crazy because we had a ton of night shoots. So we'd have to like figure out how to like start in the day through the week and then slowly move into night, without, so it was a lot of planning. I mean, I just spent every second on it for probably 8 months until we shot. And then like every second I wasn't working on something else. We shot in May until May and June.
Oh, okay.
We shot pieces of each. Yeah, kind of half and half. Yeah.
Wow. And so, is it done now?
On Tuesday we go in and we finish the last pass of the color, and then on Wednesday we go into the sound studio and look at the 5-1 mix, and then it's done. Yeah. Wow. So this week essentially. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm really glad to be like wrapping it up. Yeah, we picture locked a long time ago, and it's just been sort of waiting for people to be available to do different things and schedules and stuff. So it'd be really good to finish it up. Yeah.
And how is it writing and directing yourself? Like, how was that? Because I'm guessing if you're the lead, you're in most of the scenes.
Yeah, probably like 80-something% of them. Yeah, so I was really lucky. So in the first part of the shoot, first of all, I had already done the play, which was helpful. But I think the tricky thing of having done a character and then doing it again a year and a half later is that you are so different as a person that the character is going to be different. So you have to come back and start all over again and reapproach the work. But I did a lot of work beforehand. Like I prepped really hard as an actor as well. So that I would sort of be really in when we went. I wouldn't have to think too much about what I was doing. I could focus on just the present moment. And then when we were on set, I was really, really lucky to have Luke there in the monitor. We had talked a lot about what I was going after, and he would kind of go like, yeah, that's it. Or kind of go like, But and then later on, once Kumbi became available, she was there on the monitor for me, and she was there for a lot of like really big days that were really important to me of like, I can't screw this scene up, because if I screw this scene up, the movie goes, you know what I mean? And it's 4-minute take, and there's one specific thing that challenge that I've set for myself and the other actor in the scene, and we've got to get it. And so it was people that I really, really trust their opinion. So I could trust when they said, that's there. And then I think too, like I've been directing myself in things for a little while, and self-directing when I'm on other people's sets a lot, like internally. Some actors don't have the thing where they're like, they know how the take was when they're doing it, and that can be a really, really good thing. But I kind of always know if I'm there or not, and kind of just tell if like there's something about if the molecules shift in the air the right way in the right moment, or like the vibration of the scene is just vibrating in the right way, and it's the way that you imagined it beforehand. And I'm always like, that's probably it. You can kind of feel the magic when it happens. And I'd say like 9 out of 10 times, if you felt the magic in the room, You're like, that's got to be the one. And then you watch it. And then like 3 days later, you're watching it and you're like, yeah, it was the one. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of, I think you feel it more than I feel. I trust the feeling in the room and the tempo and the rhythm and the pace and just the feeling of like everyone being present in the moment and telling the story more than I do the monitor for sure afterwards.
Wow.
I don't even trust like listening to it.
Yeah.
I keep doing that. I'd even trust listening to it more than I would watching it in a way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I need to learn that thing. I don't like the fucking headphones.
Yeah. Yeah. No, either do I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like I'll listen to it after, but I like if I'm not in a scene too, like I'd always like they'd set up the monitor, and sometimes I would be there, but a lot of time I'd just be standing beside Kev, just watching the scene, kind of peeking at the monitor, watching it, because it just feels like there's you know what I mean.
That connection.
Yeah.
So earlier on I hinted that I wanted to talk about your Fringe play, the last one.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Monster.
Exactly.
By Daniel McIver.
How did that come about?
Well, actually, Kumbi and I were gonna do a Fringe play together, and we were like, "Who's someone that we would like to direct?" It was Julia Schultz, who's like a emerging theater director. She's really awesome. She did a play called she did Mackers at the Citadel last year, and we saw that and we're like, "Wow, she's great." And then Kumi became unavailable because she's doing The Last Wife at Neptune, and I still wanted to do something, and I was looking for a play, and then I messaged a friend, Richie Wilcox, who's a really, really great theater creator, and he was like, "Oh, this is a cool play," and I sort of like, and he had a copy, and I read it, and as soon as I read it, I was like, I got to do this because it's just you on stage by yourself for like 70 minutes, and you play 10 characters, and I was looking for something that was, after doing Bone Cage, which was the biggest challenge I had yet, directing, writing, and acting in a feature was just like, it was a big challenge, and it felt like a great experience. So I wanted to do something that was the hardest thing I'd done yet in theater. But it was sort of, there's this piece at the end, this speech at the end that sort of talks about the work that we put out into the world and the effect it has on the world and our relationship as artists to the work we do and the responsibility we have for what it says and how it's sort of time to, there's this great thing. It was written in 1998, but it's so relevant now. In the piece, he writes that it's our responsibility to turn ourselves away from darkness, or to expose darkness and like put a light in the room, sort of thing. I'm completely screwing that up, but it really spoke to me. So I was like, I got to do that. Yeah.
I remember what's that thing called where you kind of do like a short ad of the
sampler thing.
Yeah. I was like, you played like a guy and a girl, and like I was like, okay, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
it's a fun one. Yeah.
What was the process preparing for that?
Really interesting. I mean, Julia's really a really interesting director. She has an ability to sort of like put you at ease right away. And so we started right away working with the physicality, abstractly, putting on music that sounded like, it's like, okay, like that kind of feels like the character. That's got a feeling, like an undertone to the character. It kind of like sits in a way that vibes with them. And we'd walk around the room and just find the physicality and dance, and slowly little pieces of things would come out, like a gesture. Or for me, like, I don't know what it is, but like how they use their hands and just how they stand, because a lot of it is just standing, talking to the audience, different characters, and those things started to come about. And before that, I'd been absorbing the script for a while, for like probably about 6 weeks before we started rehearsing, so that when I came in, I knew all the material, so we could just play. And then it was just finding the rhythm, kind of like editing a film. Like when you switch the characters, like how do you do it on like an in-breath or an out-breath? And there's a lot of things where it's two characters talking in a scene back and forth to each other, like rapid fire. And so how do you find that transition to the character really at breakneck speed without making a meal out of it? So it's just like, and it kind of like in a way that an edit kind of, you cut on the down or the up. It was just finding ways to do that, but just you as an actor.
How difficult was it?
that part was really hard. It's not something that came naturally to me at all. We'd be there and like doing it and drilling it, and Julia would be like, "I think, do you want to do it again?" And I'd be like, "Yes," but like internally, I did not want to do it again. But like I knew I had to pull it off. But once there was a rhythm to it and doing it, oh man, it's one of the most fun things I've ever done to have to switch like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna end it with this one though. What's next?
I'm doing a play at Neptune called Control Damage about a piece of the story of Viola Desmond. That goes January, February, and then filmmaking wise, I'm writing the next feature. Just started, just got a draft done, and Kumbi and I have written a film that hoping to go for funding for this year that she would direct. So those are kind of like the next few things. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you. Sweet.
This is the Blackout Podcast.
Thanks for listening.